Okay, so again, I've set aside today specifically to review chapter 6 because I think number one, it's important, and number two, it'll be the only opportunity for you to actually review. It'll be the only opportunity for you to ask me specific questions or maybe help for the problem set before it is sort of due because I don't see you this week, right? Um, and yeah, so we do have a lot of time. And my lesson for chapter 7.1 and 7.2 group together is not only short, but it's also interesting enough that I firmly believe you will be paying attention to it because it's heavily involved with the money stuff. Okay. So, what I have planned in the first half of class is let's go through some interesting questions. I do have a challenge for you, not only to expose you to the level of difficulty that could have been, I dream that of a day where we don't have quadmester, but some interesting patterns that you can also make yours. I want to open your eyes and introduce you to just reality, really. Just because you know a formula doesn't mean that you've hit the ceiling of your skills, right? You're not skill capped here. There's more to it. I just want you to get there. That's all. Questions, concerns, problem set, anything like that? No? Because if not, I actually want you to try these 4 questions. I want you to literally I'll just pause the video, and everyone hunkers down. Maybe try the first 3 in about 10 minutes. We'll go through it together, and then we're going to explore number 4 together because I'm thinking that people won't be able to figure this out, right? It's difficult. That's the whole point. But just like everything else, there's sort of like a trick to it. And once you see it, you're like, oh, is that all it is? So if you feel really confident with your chapter 6 skills, being able to plug in a formula and do normal questions, then go straight to number 4. I don't mind. But I'm going to give you 10 minutes anyways. If you like, please take out a piece of paper. These questions, because we're recording, if you really want to take a look at it again, you can visit the video. So don't worry about copying the question. Just try it. Let's start. At exactly 9:15, we will take up the first 3 and then explore the fourth one together. Okay, so I'm going to just transfer these questions onto a PowerPoint because I need another whiteboard. But again, judging from the show of hands, it seems like a lot of people have not been practicing. Let us try to hash this out. So these would be like intermediate questions, and I don't know. I don't know if this is going to help you if we actually do this, but it is what it is. I hope that you will still benefit from it in one way or another. Let's do this. Okay, a sailboat is worth $140,000 and it depreciates 18% in the first year, then 10% every year after that. How much will it be worth 8 years after it is bought? There's a couple ways you can do this. Question or suggestion? What's up? Of the year afterwards. So whatever is left over is 10% after that. Yeah. Okay. So this is very similar to the questions we've done in the exponent unit, where I give you a car and it depreciates by like 6% every year and it just gets smaller and smaller and smaller, sort of like that. There's a couple of ways you can do it, right? You can do this manually just to see a better idea. And then maybe from there, we can make a better judge call. The first term you can say is 14,000. The next one, it decreases by 18. So how much is left over? 100% minus 18%. What's left over is going to be 82%. So if this is term number 1, I'll just do T1. I can say T2 is going to be 14,000 multiplied by 0.82, right? So that's going to be something, and someone can do that on the calculator for me. And then term 3 is whatever's left over, I go down by 10%, which means what's left over is going to be 90%. So again, I don't have the calculator on me right now because my hands are full. But whatever was in T2 is going to be then multiplied by 0.90, right? 0.90. And then it goes T4, the same thing, 0.82, and then 0.90 twice. So I could just do squared, and so on and so forth. All the way down to 8 years. Wait, um, 8 years after it is bought. So if it is bought on the first year, then you can technically say that this is 9, right? So this is 1 year after, this is 2 years after, this is 3 years after, 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, 8 years after, right? This scenario in itself, we did write it correctly, but as you can see, there's a lot of brackets here and it's a little bit, how shall I say, messy. The term number is a 9, the exponent is a 7, there's a whole bunch of other numbers involved. Is there a way we can simplify this to fit our, I guess, our studies or our knowledge of series and sequences better? Can you clean this up a little bit? What could we write instead as T1? What could we write instead as T2, so on and so forth? Anybody? Does that give a bit of a clue? Let's write a different number as my first term to make this a sequence. What do you think? What could I write as my first term? What makes sense? Yeah. Hmm? Not this entire one, but maybe here. Because you already start to see the rate being applied, right? This is the R value, and that's going to be multiply, 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 multiply. If you think of this as a geometric sequence, the number that I'm constantly multiplying, I don't mind that. That can repeat again and again and again. But instead, Nathan, negative 18%. Right. In other words, if you multiply the 82%, the first term you can say, in the first year, I have this much left, which is 140,000 multiplied by 0.82. And then the second year, so this is equal to 114,800. In the second year, after I purchase, the remaining 114,800 is going to be multiplied by 90%. In the third year after purchase, this is going to be multiplied by this again. So it becomes a square. T4, 114,800 multiplied by 0.90 cubed. And if we clean this up, it matches our geometric sequence question. And my A value, it doesn't have to be 140,000. We set it to be 114,800 by multiplying the 0.82 ahead of time, right? Just because the question says 140,000, it doesn't mean you have to use that word. Use the numbers and create a sequence that models your scenario. Make the math work for you. Don't feel like you have to keep on plugging in the numbers. Yes. Well, yeah, this is the previous amount, right? Yes. No, that's exactly right. Let me try to show you what's actually happening. So 114,800 multiplied by 0.90 is term 2, right? It's the previous year. The amount that I have in my previous year is going to be multiplied by another 90%. So instead of writing it this way, I can just think to myself, oh, that's like me multiplying 0.9 twice. And so why not save myself some ink in your pen and write it as a square? And if I do it that way, it just so happens to match my geometric series, a sequence. So it actually is to my benefit to write it in that way. Right? So if we can match this and set it up as a geometric sequence, what is my final term? T, so this is the one year after I bought, 2 years after, 3 years. So it's a term 8 is what I'm looking for. 8 years after it is bought. The numbers on the left side, the left column, going from T1 all the way to T9, T1 was written as the amount when I bought it, not after I bought it. But taking that entire scenario, we cleaned it up, and Tn equals 1, this number represents how many years after it was purchased. So it sort of matches my story better. Just want to let you know that it's not just about plugging into a formula. Every question isn't going to be fixed exactly the same. In fact, you can take a question and make it fit whatever way you want, as long as it makes sense. And that is why you develop or you use your head, you use your brain, not just learn how to be a machine and plug in numbers like a calculator. We don't need more calculators in this world. We need human beings. Okay? Let's do it. Taking this, that's 114,800 times 0.9 to the power of 7, 54,908 and 48 cents. If you think about that in terms of how much money is left in your pocket, it's pretty sad, right? In 8 years, you lose almost $100,000. But what's the trade-off? You got a boat and you're living that kind of lifestyle, right? That's the water and the sea. That's your life. So you're paying $100,000 for that kind of lifestyle. Some people do it, right? Case in point, you yourself might, or your friends might own a cottage, right? And you could think of a home as an asset. You think of a cottage as an asset because it can make you money. But at the same time, you could also lose money because you are paying a lot on property taxes. You have to pay money to take care of it. If it's on a septic tank, you have to clean out the poop and the pee, right? That's sort of sitting in a big tub underground, so on and so forth. It's all about plus and minus. And if it makes you money, great. But if you lose money, it's because that you're buying that kind of lifestyle, right? Any questions? Okay. All this stuff is trying to make money, try to make math work for you. I'm gonna clear this and let us move to the next question. And I'm not sure if you had a chance to do it. Let's take a look again. Question 2. Determine the specific sum of the series S18 for 12 plus 5 minus 2, so on and so forth. It doesn't tell you what type of a series it is, so you're going to have to figure that out. Let's do the easier one. It's easier, I think, to subtract than it is to divide. So I'm going to do the answer here. I'm not going to copy and paste. Term 1, so this is for number 2, everyone. I'm going to use a thicker pen. Term 1 is going to be 12. Term 2 is a 5. And term 3 is a -2. That's all I have. Let's check to see if it's arithmetic, which means the difference would be the second number or second term minus the first term. That's a -7. Let's check again. -2 minus a 5. That's also a -7. So we have established it must be arithmetic. Yes, Lucas. Oh, the term is a 12 and the term is a 5. If I were to ask for the sum of two, then I'm asking for the sum of the first term and the second term. That would be a 17. So consider it term versus sum. That is how, again, that's the sum of the two terms. The second term is 5. That is why if I say S2, it is the first term and the second term together. It would be 17. So series, sum, the sequence, we're just looking at the set of numbers. Right? Let me erase this for a second. Okay, so we have the first term, we have the second term, we have third term, we have A, we have D. S18, we have N. The question tells me that N is going to be 18. The sum of 18 is going to be, using my formula, N over 2, 2 times A plus N minus 1 D. In case you forgot, because you're still lacking practice, that's our formula. If you work this out, that is a 9 multiplied by 24 plus 17 times 7. That is a 17 times 7, 17, 749, 119. It's too early in the morning. I do not want to do that in my head. Negative 855. Number 3 is going to test you whether you really understand the words, the definition, or even the formulas, and how to use that to your advantage. Okay? I'm going to give you another 5 minutes. Really give this an honest chance. Person, are you still copying number 2? Sorry, I didn't want to rush you. Okay, I'm going to pause the video again, and get you to really try it. The sum of the first 3 terms, the sum of the first 3 terms is 32. And I don't tell you if it's arithmetic or geometric. Determine the fourth term if the sum of the first 4 terms is 40. Let me write this down. Let me break down the question for you. I'm going to put this to my PowerPoint. Clear screen. All right, let's do this. Tate. So I'm pulling the information out as is. I'm not going to tell you what it means or what it doesn't mean. The sum of the first 3 terms is 32. What is the fourth term if the sum of the first 4 terms is 40? I'll give you a minute. If you're like me, I can't deal with words. It's very difficult for me to do words with math. It took me a long time when I was your age to really read English and transfer it into numbers. So use this time, use this opportunity to do that. Read it carefully, write it down into symbols that make sense to you, and then hash out those numbers once all the information is laid in front of you. So another analogy that I would give is, anyone here ever put together like an IKEA furniture, or like, like a plastic robot model, or any kind of 3D puzzle? If you've ever done that, if you're like me, you typically lay out all the pieces on a table, and you start looking for it from this table because it sort of frames everything that you need in one area. right? So all you have to do is manage this fence, right? If you've ever put together a computer, for example, all the pieces for a computer you sort of lay out on the table so that you don't have to go searching elsewhere. All you have to do is deal with a fixed amount of space. And it helps your brain manage. It doesn't overwhelm you, right? If you've ever studied for an exam, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you look at all of this, this is way too overwhelming. If you look at your entire binder, it's way too overwhelming. But if you've been organizing your work, you have like 3 different piles. This is chapters 1 to 3. This is chapter 4 to 5. This is chapter 6 to 7. And all your brain has to do is manage 3 piles instead of 200 pages, right? The brain is a very interesting thing. It's the same idea. Even for a math question, if there seems to be way too much information going on, start writing it down to see what is given and what you can do with it. Okay. I'll give you another minute. Just think about it. Lucas, what's your guess? Mhm. It is just 8. Who else got it? Everyone saw it? That's all it was, right? That's all it is. It might seem like some people who are so focused on doing the question, you might think, oh, am I supposed to find A? How do I know if it's D or R? Like it starts to get overwhelming. This is what I mean. But if you remember the idea of sum, right? The sum of 4 is the first term, the second term, the third term, and the fourth term. The sum of 3 is the same thing, except it's the first 3 terms. Right? And really, I don't care if I got to the first term by multiplying an R or if I got to the first term by adding a D. I don't really care because it doesn't matter. When you subtract the 3, it's like saying 40 minus 32, right? And 8 is equal term 4. It doesn't matter. So it was, in a sense, a trick question. But if you let it overwhelm you, you'll be like, how do I do this? Right? Just consider it. Last question. This one's a challenge, so we're going to do it together. I actually expect very little people to be successful in it. So here it is. Let me this. I'm going to clear everything and retype it in. Okay. Which is which is greater? A, which is a sum of 59 squared plus 49 squared minus 49 squared plus 48 squared minus 47 squared plus 46 squared all the way down to 2 squared minus 1 squared, or just the addition? Question or answer? Answer. What do you think? 2400-ish. How did you get that? Um, you're seeing it as a pattern. That's not a bad idea. That's not a bad take. I would like a firm decision and a reason why. I want you to do the math. It's not just logic here. Um, it's a right idea. The idea that, oh, if something is squared, it makes the number huge. So maybe there's a trick to it, and so A is bigger than B. But I'd like you to really consider, like, actually do the math calculation. Tell me which was bigger. Like, give me a firm number comparison. Do the math and see if you can figure it out. Okay. I'm gonna give you a couple of minutes. Let's try this again at 9:45. Please give an honest attempt, and I'm gonna pause the video now. Okay. So again, um, for part A, you don't have a formula that works. We haven't learned anything. So unless some person comes up with a new formula or you devise one yourself, that one's going to be impossible to do directly. But humans are crafty. Okay, we're a little bit better than just some calculator. So you can think of a way to do it. Part B is actually pretty straightforward. You see that we are decreasing by one every step of the way. I think you can guess that it's going to be arithmetic. So let's do the sum. Starting from 50 going to 1, I think you could figure out that the number of terms is going to be 50, right? If you don't believe me, just go backwards. Consider that to be term 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, term 46, 47, 48, 49, term 50. There's 50 terms. Okay, so for B, the sum of 50 is going to be 50 divided by 2, the first term plus the last term. That's 25 times 51. This is going to be 1,275. Okay. So the question is then, how do we deal with A? Yes. Yeah. Yes. Excellent. You got it. You actually got it. That's it. So for the people that's on chat, what was said was verbatim. I don't know if this is what is supposed to be, right? But if you consider every two of these terms to be one block, something interesting happens between the difference of the two numbers. So 50 squared is 2,500. 49 squared is 2,401. If you work the calculator, the difference between the first one, let's call this, for lack of a better term, let's just call this 1. The first block has a difference of 99 plus the second block. If you work out 48 squared minus 47 squared, gives you a difference of 95 plus the third gray block, if you work it out, will give you a difference. 46 squared minus 45 squared is 91 plus, because the next number is a plus. And you keep working these blocks. Because there's 50 terms, there should be 25 gray blocks. And the very last block is 4 minus 1. The very last block has a difference of 3. What do you notice about this new series that you created? The difference is a 4, right? Or rather, a -4. The first number is now a 99. We don't have to deal with the 50. You're thinking outside the box. Really well done. Okay, I appreciate that. And the number of terms, it's a 25 because it's half of the 50 terms. We've grouped 50 into blocks of 2. And so if you put that together, sum of 25 is 25 divided by 2. Well, we have the first number and last number, so we can do that. We don't have to deal with the A and the D. 99 is the first term. 3 is the last term. And so that would be 12.5 multiplied by 102. 1,275. I'm not trying to troll you. It just so happens, right? And this was a textbook question, so it's not. I didn't make this up. So they're actually exactly the same. Coincidence? I'm not sure. I think it is. I don't. I That would be above my pay grade. I guess I could take a look at any theory that makes them equal, but I'm gonna say for now that it is coincidence. Any questions? So I'm hoping that these four questions are not necessarily to say, oh my goodness, is this what's going to be on the test? More than that, I'd like you to understand that just because you memorize a formula doesn't make you smart. Okay? Any robot can do it. In fact, in the next 20, 30 years, most of the mundane jobs are going to be replaced by robots. And you can quote me on that. The first big professional jobs to be replaced by robots, in my opinion, are going to be um, warehouse working, like stocking, and even pharmacists, all the way to pharmacists. Because a large portion of a pharmacist's job is to mix chemicals and also to fill bottles. A lot of that can be automated. The future of people is going to be either one, working with robots, being able to work with robots, or working on things that robots cannot do. Is to the point, I think a couple of years ago, there was a very first case where a robot or AI was used to filter through all the different case studies of like a judge, like sentencing case, right? Someone was convicted of some kind of crime, and an AI computer was actually used to try to filter out to see all the similar cases to that, in hopes that they can find a way to accuse, and the other side was finding a way to defend. And if that becomes fully automated, you don't really need lawyers anymore. It's a very scary world. So I'd like you to consider something as simple as this as a example of not just memorizing, but growing your brain. Okay? Don't do it because a teacher tells you. Just think that there's a reason behind it, a deeper reason than just math. Okay? We're going to take our break here. I'm going to pause the video. And at which point, when we do come back, we'll start our chapter 7. Let's take it 20 minutes. 10:15 is when we're going to come back and continue on our next lesson.